Hello, and welcome to this episode of Leverage to Build Wealth. My very special guest is Jamie Cavanaugh, who's the president of Amerifund. She's also VP of Outgrowth for AIME and a Hall of AIME inductee, a multi-year Women with Vision Award recipient, uh, industry leader. I mean, she is truly one of the ladies of finance, not just the mortgages. She knows her stuff inside and out. She truly is a special guest. And welcome, Jamie. I appreciate you coming on to our show today.
Thank you, Tom. That was such a kind introduction. Um, it's a lot, isn't it? But
Oh my
at
gosh. And
the
I'm sure there's so much more.
but at the heart of it, though, I'm just a broker owner here in California, heading into my 26th year in this amazing industry, and still just a mom and a wife and a business owner and a dog mom and all of that stuff.
I see Daisy in the background, and I'm so very grateful because you know what? We're real here. We're real people, and our pets are family.
Uh,
And it's cool to see Daisy in the background. She is cute. So
I have an interesting story about Daisy and why she's so special that I'd love to get into at some
please
point with you.
share that with your
Yeah.
about because I want to hear your story. And in my 23 plus years of working with people and looking at thousands of financial profiles and thousands of interviews with people, I have yet, no matter how successful or how not, ever find someone who has an easy life. We all have different aspects and different parts of our story, and that's important. And it's unique. And I'd love to hear your story and not just the highlight reels. Paint us a good picture of Jamie, please. And
Wow.
with that, we'll go right into this.
Well, I'll tell you, I think who I am today is a lot different than who I was even 5 years ago, 10, 15, 20. In fact, it doesn't even look like who I was 20 years ago. Ironically, I was just talking today to a loan officer who recently, I'm going to say, came back to us.
Okay.
My partner and I had a very large retail and wholesale operation before the crash. I was the chief operating officer, wasn't an owner at that time. And I built ops for him. We had multi-lending, 43 state operation. We were writing our own product. I mean, we were really, really doing the thing. It was an amazing ride. This particular loan officer, his very first job in the mortgage industry was with us. Now, I didn't even know that at the time. I did not know that until he came back to work for us last month and said, "Did you know that you guys were my first job in this industry?" And so it's neat to come full circle 20 years later and come back here and be kind of part of this family, this culture again. And it taught me a couple things. The first thing was how proud I was that we've managed through many iterations through, that company closing and me going off into the corporate world and, doing other things there. And then, coming back 9 years ago to work with Brad and then becoming a partner and, and all those things, that the one thing that we were able to do is rebuild that culture, that thing, that intangible thing that makes us unique and special and is really why you get out of bed every day, because it's not to review loan applications, it's to help people, it's to make a difference. So that was the positive side of the conversation, but here was the interesting, humbling thing. I've heard it referred to as kind candor. I consider it a gift when someone tells me this. And he said to me, came in, he sat down, looks at me and he goes, "You're different." And I said, "Well, yeah, definitely. I'm not afraid to say I'm 45 years old. I was in my, 20s in an executive C-level role in the
Wow.
2000s, which was even more male dominated at that time. And I was young on top of it. And so finding a voice was very challenging and not having the maturity to really understand how to navigate that properly.
It's almost a fight.
It was a fight. And it's interesting because I will always credit my partner as being a person who, no matter what, it was the best person for the job, not in with no relation to anything with respect to backgrounds or any of that. And so he always gave me a seat at that table and he empowered me to believe that I deserved that over time. But the thing that was the part that some people think I'm insane for sharing, but I don't mind it, is that he sat down and he said, "I used to be afraid to come and talk to you." He said, "Your door was always closed. you're always busy. You had 100 people reporting to you, and and on the occasion that I would need something, it just seemed like you didn't have time, or short, whatever. And I looked at him and I said, "You are absolutely correct. I was kind of a jerk.
Mhm.
I was a young leader. I was, we're talking coming up into the mortgage meltdown. It was stressful. We had hundreds of millions of dollars of loans on warehouse lines that we couldn't sell to Wall Street, or that we were challenged with. We had hundreds of people working for us who had been with us for a decade, whose livelihoods depended upon us. I wasn't even 30 years old. So
Wow.
understanding that at that time in my life, the way that I processed stress, tension,
Yeah.
difficulty was to just, don't bother me because I'm stressed and I've got to figure out whatever this challenge is that's in front of me. And so now he sees me, I'm a mom. I have a daughter, she'll be 10 in a couple of weeks. Started a little later, in life in that regard. And didn't ever think I would be a mom because I was a total workaholic. I was the epitome of, that cold, impersonable, too busy, too important, too whatever I thought that I was at that time in my life and in my career.
Well, to be fair, in that time frame, busy meant success.
That is true.
You
And
know,
success didn't really feel comfortable for me as a 26-year-old
yeah.
COO with
Where's
no
the
frame
book
of
to learn how
reference.
to do that, when you're at
There's
that
no
age?
book, and you
Oh,
know it because you've been in the working business world for decades like I have.
yeah.
So obviously the meltdown, the crash happened, and I had to stand in front of a company full of people I cared for, and tell them that we were done. And that was incredible. But the more incredible part was that I was about to divorce on top of that. And so
Oof.
not only was my career about to kind of get flipped on its head, so was my life. And so I like to say that life, served me up a heaping helping of humility back then. And I am grateful for that, because the last thing that I ever want to be is cold or scary or unapproachable. And over time, probably greatly in part due to being a mom. And when you are a parent, things are so much, you see things so much differently. It's not even
Yes.
about you anymore. And there's a little bit of a relief in that. Like, it's not about me. It can't be about me anymore. And that's good. It also causes you to examine who you are and how you treat others. And so a good decade plus ago, I recognized those things that were not, I didn't believe to be qualities that I really wanted to exhibit to other people. And I really started to do some serious work. That means reading. That means, fueling your body with the right stuff. That means asking yourself some hard questions and deciding who you want to be, and then figuring out how you need to change your behavior and build new habits in order to do that. And I did it, and Lord knows I am so far from perfect. The list of faults is a mile long, and my list
Yeah.
of my own is probably longer than anybody's. But he came in and he shared that with me to tell me that that is no longer how he sees me. And I thought that was such a gift, and it made me feel so good that the work I've done has been, impactful, that it makes a difference. And so when you think about the journey that I've been on for 26 years in this business, on a very personal level, this industry, through its very hard lessons, through knocking you down and testing whether you're going to get back up again and how quickly and how fast you're going to move forward, it really has kind of shaped me in a lot of ways. And I owe those dark times, those hard times, those times when everything felt uncertain and uneven, to the lessons that I took from those. And I hope, I believe, I pray that it makes me a better leader and a better person today, because I've got self-awareness, which I think is a huge
Yes.
thing. So very interesting thing that happened just in the last few days. And that was kind of what came to my mind as soon as you asked me.
That's important. Thank you. And go ahead, let's share that story about Daisy.
So it's a really interesting story about Daisy, another really trying time. So as you know, I've been very involved with AIME. I've been very fortunate to serve in their advocacy vertical, which I love doing. And I've had many of an occasion to go to Capitol Hill. And in 2022, we had our very first National Mortgage Brokers Day on the Hill. And quite a few of us flew to DC, and we had action-packed couple of days. And my family, my husband and daughter and I, had taken a family vacation to Canada. We have some farmland and a ranch in Canada and so forth. And so we had it worked out that we would both go to the airport. My husband and daughter would fly back to LA and I would fly straight to DC after our vacation. First problem was that the entire Canadian airline systems went down and nobody could get their tickets, and nobody could pass through the check-ins or anything. So we were at a complete stop. So we are at this airport. Both of our flights depart within 10 minutes of one another in totally different terminals. And none of us, and I'm talking hundreds of people in this airport, can get through TSA. None of us can do anything, and nobody at the airport can help us because everybody's flight is urgent. So they're not going to push one person in front of you. It's incredibly stressful. Both of us, I make my flight, he misses his. My flight's late and therefore my connection is missed. I'm rerouted somewhere else. And let's just suffice it to say that by the time I roll into DC, it's 10 hours later than I was supposed to be. It's very late at night. I'm exhausted and I can't believe it. And I have to wake up the next day and we have to like go and have
You're
meetings.
probably cranky, you know,
maybe just a
all
little.
that hungry.
But I will tell you something else that's really cool about our industry, and that is that my friends knew that. And when I walked into the lobby of the hotel, there they were in the lobby in a group waiting for me to give me a big hug and say, "You've had a crappy day. We are so glad you're here." And that is another gift that this industry has given me. So we go on, we do our thing. The next day, we get up, we do, our, we do some meetings on the Hill, we do some other stuff. And I'm supposed to help host this mixer that we're having. We're inviting some dignitaries and so forth. And so I'm all mic'd up and I'm getting ready to go. My cell phone rings and it's the person that watches my dog. I had an English bulldog. Her name is Penny and she was 4.5 years old. And she says to me, "Who's your vet?"
Oh no.
It's, I give her a name. "Why?" "Well, something's wrong with Penny. She doesn't seem like she's breathing very well." And I'm like, just go, just drive her there, whatever. I'll call the vet. I'll give him my credit card. So I'm doing all this. All this is happening. And the camera's getting ready to start rolling pretty soon. And we're like in final, we don't know what we're going to do next. I call the vet. They're pulling in. The vet's like, "We don't know yet. We've got to assess the situation." 10 minutes later, the vet calls me back and I pick up the phone and she tells me that my dog died. She tells me that my dog, we don't know if it was heat stroke or just heart issues or what. My 4.5-year-old English bulldog, my beautiful Penny, was gone. I had to call my husband and daughter from across the country to tell them that they couldn't go pick our dog up from the dog sitter. And by the way, had their flight not been delayed, they would have picked the dog up the night before. But they couldn't because the flight was delayed. And so I had to tell my husband, who had to tell my daughter, and she's crying, and I'm not there. And my friends, again, my broker friends, are right there. They see what's happening. I've got hands on me. I've got a cup of water. I've got a nap. I mean, like right there. My good friend Michelle Dugan is like, "I got you. Mic me up. I'm going to take over. Go." Booked a flight home. Inclement weather hit as I was in the Uber on the way to the airport, and I was stuck on a floor in the DC airport for 6 hours. There weren't even seats available anymore in the airport.
Oh my God.
It was so crowded. By the time I got home, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. My husband and daughter's luggage had been lost on its way from Canada to America. Our refrigerator and freezer had died in our garage during the time that we were gone, and they returned home with no luggage to a refrigerator that had broken down. It was to the point that a couple of my friends said, "You need to like burn some sage or something around you because what in the world is happening?"
Yeah.
We go through all this, we process all this. How does this lead to Daisy? Well, here's how it leads to Daisy. We needed time. We knew that we wanted, a dog again because our home felt so empty. And my husband was looking around and he saw these puppies in Ohio, and these puppies were just absolutely adorable. Half French bulldog, half Boston Terrier, and he's like, "Look at this little dog, Daisy. Look at Daisy." I said, "I don't know if we're ready. I just don't know." Well, he pulled the trigger, of course. And so now I'm back on the road again. I've got to get to Amplify in Dallas, Texas. I'm going to Amplify. Renee Rodriguez, amazing, life-changing experience on a side note. And so I'm not even going to be home when Daisy gets there. So now I'm like, I get home again late at night after my trip. She had been at the house for less than a day. And this dog became my buddy. There are dogs in this world that are special, special, special. They're like, they just understand you inherently. They sense things. This dog knows when I've had a bad day, and she comes and crawls up and like lays on me. This dog knows when I'm sad. I lost my mom a few months ago. This dog was right there. Every
My
time she would see
condolences.
me start to get upset, there was Daisy. She would just make sure that she was touching me, next to me, on me, always. And it was so soothing to me that this little girl is just the most special little thing. And she came to us to heal us after we had
Yeah.
such a difficult loss and what I would consider the trip from hell when you look
Yes.
back on it.
Yeah. Well, firstly, my condolences on the loss of your mom,
Thanks. Yeah.
and your beautiful dog. But no one can convince me. I've always been a dog person that dogs do not have souls.
Yeah.
Cats, that's debatable.
My
But
cats.
they're, they're Nubis, all of them. They all have Nubis complexes. But I'm a person of faith, and I believe in souls. And I tell you, dogs, pets in general, but especially dogs have a tender place, and that's why it's so easy to love them, because they worship us, they love us, but they definitely have a soul, and as you can tell, as you mentioned, their instincts. It's amazing how much comfort they can have. And someone may be like, well, why are you talking about dogs on this podcast about women and vision? Well, it's real. It's about reality, connections, what matters to us in our life. And I think that's really interesting, because here you're talking about being on Capitol Hill, working with all these dignitaries, and devastating news of your pet, your family member, because pets are family.
Mhm.
I think this is very important to get across, because so many people get tied up with titles and all this hoopla. And titles are important for certain things, and to get things done, which is why you're in Washington, is because that's where things kind of get done, and where a lot of money gets funneled to from a whole lot of sources, but what was on your mind? Your pet, your family member. And it's the same thing with any aspect of our life. Our values will always be foremost in our life.
Yep.
And you have a very incredible reputation in the industry. You're
So,
to say industry leader just sounds like a played out phrase, but it's true, and you truly are a woman with vision. And it's interesting is because your peers see this so easily. I followed you on Facebook for a couple of years, and seeing, just all these different kind of things we do. I saw you first at AIME Fuse 2022, and I was like, wow, it made a difference. It made a difference on my soul. It's made an impression, because I'm a big believer that our life is not linear. Okay,
yep.
that our life is packaged in moments. And for me, true wealth, and the premise of this is building wealth, and wealth is so much more than just financial assets, which we'll talk a lot about on this, the series of this podcast and so forth. But the biggest asset in our wealth are these moments where our life progresses, where we have life-changing aha moments. And I believe they do not have to be long and drawn out. They can be a quote that changes your whole being. It can be an impression when you give someone a hug or shake their hand, or just are in their presence. Have you ever been in a situation, Jamie, where you've been in a room and someone walks in and the room is now different?
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Now, positive and negative. Haven't you seen an
Mhm.
experience where someone walks into the room and it's almost electrifying? You
Mhm.
don't even have to see them. You can feel it.
Oh, yeah,
I
definitely.
believe this with all of my being. You're like, what? Something's different. And when you see or connect, you may not even know that person or why. You just know there's something special. And
Definitely.
then to the opposite, sometimes it's like, who dropped the temperature? And
Mhm.
like a black hole, cancer filled feeling can come in, and you're like, wow. And into the opposite scenario, like I've had these kind of experiences where you see someone, I'm like, I don't know why, but I don't trust you. And that person may look like a Hollywood celebrity. They may look all pretty and dazzled and polished and articulate, sound pretty, but your soul says something's not right. And I think that's interesting. And whenever I saw you on stage, it was one of those positive things,
Oh,
and when you see
thank
it,
you.
you have that light about you. And I think that's something that's important. And that's a vital, true part of a true leader that has a way of impacting people for good. Uh,
Yeah.
with that being said, you truly are a trailblazer in the broker community. You've broken glass
Oh,
ceilings, multiple ones. Now, being a fellow Gen Xer, uh, I don't know, raised so much that for me not to look at that, there's this, uh, for me, it's a person of vision, because I've just, I'm not gonna say indoctrinated, just so used to that. But to do that's almost like a disservice because it almost takes away. It's like, no, you truly have had to break through glass ceilings that are there that I never have had to experience. And so can you talk a little bit about your journey
yeah.
and to breaking these kind of glass ceilings and how that's helped you, and maybe some tips to others, especially females who are coming into an industry that's traditionally dominated by white males in their 50s and saying, no, we're different, we're special. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you that when it was happening, I didn't even know it. I didn't recognize it. I didn't realize that this was an age thing, a gender thing, an anything thing. I just thought I was young. I was afraid and I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. So I didn't have a voice and I didn't even want to fight to have one initially. And then it started to become about listening to the things that were going on in the boardrooms around me and going, I know the answer to that. Everyone's belaboring this point and debating and trying to come to this conclusion, but I have it. Sitting in boardrooms with very large corporations in which I was tasked to bring the data to the executives and then sit in a corner while they all digested it and discussed it. And it was like, finally, I just started speaking up. I couldn't stop myself because I had the answer. I was sitting there with the answer and I'm like, I'm just going to say it and I might get fired and that's okay. But I didn't. Um, Initially, I was rolled right over and they ignored me and pretended like I didn't speak. But over time, wait a minute, she does have the answer. Wait a minute, maybe she should be at this table. Wait a minute, we should ask her what she thinks before we make a final decision. Very slow process. Now I've got the voice. Well, what the heck do I do with it? And how do I feel comfortable using it? Gosh, as recently as 2020, I had my first opportunity to be on stage actually at an EPM event. And then I got an award then for, I think it was like most valuable broker was what they named it at the time. And I remember getting up there feeling nervous. Before I got on the stage, I actually went into the hall and like was taking deep breaths because I was so nervous. And then getting off the stage and getting this award and walking away feeling like questioning whether I deserved it. Like that's the kind of stuff that goes on in people's minds. That's the stuff they don't talk about. Those are not the bullet points on the bio. Those are not the LinkedIn headlines. But those are the things that people really deal with when they are evolving in their careers as a leader. And the first thing you have to do is believe you should have a voice. The second thing you need to do is get comfortable using it. And only then can you decide what it is you want to say and what kind of difference you want to make. And so, what I tell women every day is, and men, and anybody that has ever felt marginalized, unheard, invisible, and I don't care what you look like or where you come from, everybody has experienced it in some way, shape, or form,
Yes.
is walk into the room and expect the respect. Don't ask for it, expect it. expecting the respect doesn't mean being disrespectful to other people. It
Right.
means that you believe you deserve it. And if you believe you deserve it, most of the time, going back to your point about the energy you bring into a room, the
Yes.
people in the room are going to take your cues. And when we talk about the power of influence and we talk about leadership, we talk about all these things. Yes, there are people that walk into a room and light it up, and there are people that walk into a room and take the wind out of it. But I would argue that those people are equally powerful, but
Yes.
through their life experiences or their choices or their hurt or whatever it is that has brought them to this place, they don't light up the room. Instead, they bring their pain into the room and they bring the room down. And I truly hope that people that are struggling with something that makes them not walk into a room and use their influence and their power and their gift to do something positive, I hope that they can heal from that. I hope they can look at themselves and ask themselves
Yes.
why, because it is a gift. It is a
Yeah.
gift and a responsibility to walk into a room and change the energy. And we have to decide the kind of energy that we want to change it into. And for me personally, I don't care what kind of day I'm having, I'm not going
Okay.
to bring somebody down.
Okay, Jamie, you just hit the gold mine, the vein there, choice.
Yep.
I love that because that is truly the reality of it. It's for me, it's like money. Money is neither good nor bad. It's just a tool.
Yep.
But what you use it for, how you use it, how you incorporate, how you grow it, how you shrink it, how you make things better or worse, because you can use money to make things bad, right?
Yep.
Um, it's it's incredible, but I love the premise and that very underlining core part of that philosophy is that choice. And I believe in grace. I believe that
Yep.
uh, people, everybody. So here's the thing: you can't have success without stress, you
Yep.
know, and you can't have failure without stress. Stress is an interesting thing, and I don't believe that stress creates a personality, but I do believe it magnifies
Yep. It amplifies it for sure.
personality. If someone's not, I don't want to sound crass, but if someone's an asshole, they're going to be a bigger asshole with more money.
Yep.
If they're generous, they're going to be more generous when they have
That
more
is a
money.
fact.
And it's the same thing with power, and they're not necessarily the same, but money does bring power, but they're not coexistent,
Yeah.
and
They
I
can be
mean they
mutually
are
exclusive.
separate,
Certainly.
but that same thought, is that it's magnified. And what I found is to be interesting is when, and you brought this up a little bit, is when someone's hurt from something else and stress comes. No matter what that stressor is, it's going to find any kind of struggle that's
Yep.
there. Now, here's what's interesting. We may think we have that stuff locked down, hidden in a prison of our own mind. But when stress comes, real stress comes, it unlocks it.
Mm-hmm.
And what ends up happening is that new stressor, whatever that topic of the moment is, um, brings with it the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how whatever that stressor is now gets the full brunt of it. And I loved how you talked about earlier and thank you for your vulnerability about being a young executive and trying to figure out and trying to do what you thought at that time is what you needed to be. And it's amazing how stress just brings out all of these things. And none of us are immune to this. None. And part of true moving forward and true progress is realizing, wait a minute, I don't like the way I'm feeling. I don't like the way that this is. And that takes a level of maturity and self-realization to say, hey, I'm going to turn this tide. And thank you for sharing that because I man, I'm embarrassed of I have so many things in the past where at that time I thought decision, but looking back, I'm like, man, you know what was that or was that another wound speaking that came out in that moment?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's
And
so rarely when we have big feelings about things, it's almost never about the thing. It's usually
yeah,
about a compilation of things that have led us to a breaking point. And it's like stress and like pain and things that we don't work through and process.
yeah,
All we've done is just written a check and it's gonna get cashed. It's gonna
yeah,
get cashed. It's
yeah,
in the check is in the mail and it's gonna cash. But the problem is if you don't work through it when it's happening, it's gonna come at a very inconvenient time and
yeah,
it's going to hit you hard and you're not going to be able to handle it the way you would have if you had processed it when it happened. And somebody's probably going to be on the receiving end
yeah,
of some stuff that they don't really deserve, that isn't equal to the issue at hand. You
yeah,
know, way big reaction to something that probably didn't deserve it. When I lost my mom, I really had to I pulled back a lot. I got really quiet. You didn't see me on social media very much at
yeah,
all. It wasn't because I was hiding, it was actually because I realized as a mother that I owed it to my daughter to feel my way through this, to process my way through this. Not easy, not over. But I started getting angry and I was short and I felt it. And I knew that what I was really angry about was that my mom wasn't here. It wasn't about my
yeah,
daughter, you know, not doing a chore. And so immediately within days, I just looked at myself and said, you got to reel it all the way back in and let yourself feel, let yourself cry, let yourself be
yes,
mad, let yourself do all those things and let yourself do that for as long as you need to. So I often talk about grief and I say, by the way, anybody that's a member of the club where you've lost a parent, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but only those who have been there really understand. I thought I did, but I didn't until it was something I faced.
yeah,
Um, but I think that grief is like um, it comes in waves. But when my mom passed away, I had a series of bad weeks. And then suddenly I would have a bad day and mostly good days. And then suddenly I would have mostly good days and maybe a bad moment. And I think that over time it gets to the point where those bad moments are even less frequent. But
yeah,
that's the process. And I had to try to work through this process. And thank God for my partner who's been my friend for 23 of my 26 years in this industry, who was like, I've never seen you like this. In 23 years, I have never seen you break. I've never seen you not working at, I would just shelve it and
yeah,
keep going because that's what you
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And I processed my way through it and I'm much more myself today. But I'll tell you what, if I hadn't, who knows where I'd
Everyone
be.
around you would feel it,
Oh yeah,
in not the best
definitely.
way.
And I do have energy and I know it. And I know that the energy I bring into a room, if I'm not in a good place, can also be negative
Yeah.
and it can be not good. And so I've got to be extra cautious about what I, what I put out there.
Thank you for sharing that. With that being said, how have you taken these lessons learned? And these are hard lessons, right? These are black belt in life type lessons. And some of these lessons have scars that are worse than um, some really aggressive injuries, that many people carry. And allowing this grace to truly impact you, but also to give that grace to others. You
That's the
know,
lesson.
how have you allowed this to help you be a visionary leader, to help you truly be um, a leader who empowers others, who's able to help not only move the mission of your organization forward, but do it in a way where you have a strong culture where people want to be part of that mission. They want to follow you. It's not just about a commission. It's not just because it's the standard operating procedure of the company. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah. It's funny when I talk to loan officers and we talk about building a business and all these things that what to do, how to get back to basics, all that stuff. I always say, if you don't have a database and you're only selling rate, you're a commodity and commodities are traded. I've said this very recently.
Yeah,
Well, the same thing goes for any kind of company or leadership position you're in, a culture you're trying to build. It's a commodity unless it's something that reaches people on a level where they feel seen and cared about. And I believe that no matter how large we get, having had a very large company, before with hundreds of people and now being, not tiny, but not nearly that size, How do you make sure that everyone is valued and knows it?
Yeah.
Well, you start by having one-on-ones with the key people in your organization every week so that you know exactly where they are. And it's not just a business conversation, it's a how are you conversation. You can learn a lot about people from that.
Yes.
You have to check in with people from time to time. I tell the story of a person that came to work with me as a receptionist, worked her way over the years into a senior processing role. But before that, for 3 years, I kept asking her when she was ready to go into the senior processing role. And for 3 years, she said, not ready. I see what they go through. I don't want it. I'm happy supporting them, but I don't want a pipeline of my own. But I didn't stop asking. And there was a pivotal point where I asked again, and she said, I'm glad you asked. I've been thinking about it and I think I'm ready. And she went on to have a very successful career as a senior processor and still is one today. Had I not asked the question, would she have gone somewhere else to get that opportunity? Would she have not believed in herself and not taken the risk? What would she have done? Who knows? Who knows? But it's important to ask. It's important to do less talking and more listening. It's important to ask questions that are more than surface level. It's important to know people's stories. And when you get to a size where you can't be the person to every other person in the organization, and by the way, I always will be because I don't care. Anybody can call me anytime, and I always will be that way. But if you can't, then you have to have other leaders that you bring into your organization who are like-minded, who you know will treat your team the way you would. And that is how you build a culture. You build a culture by not accepting behavior that is poisonous to that culture, which shows your team members that you support them and that you walk the walk of what you preach, and you
Yes.
listen to the people you have and you value them.
Thank you. That's truly important. I cannot think of any greater important role of a true leader. Now, this is different than managers, but a true leader than to really set the tone of the culture of the environment and what the standards are. And then when I'm talking about standards, I'm not talking about just like performance standards. I'm talking about mindset of this is what we represent. Now, a lot of people want to represent different things, and that's totally fine. And I applaud and I appreciate the diversity of that. But you should know as a leader what you stand for, what you tolerate, and definitely what you don't tolerate as well. And I think that's a hallmark of a great leader is, I've helped a lot of clients, and whenever I was in the military, I was in for 6 years. I was a chaplain assistant. So I had two roles. Once I was a bodyguard for the chaplain, and the other one was to help with counseling with soldiers. And working with soldiers and their struggles and what causes those struggles and how that bleeds and carries into every aspect of their life, marriages and so forth, and seeing how those stresses impact. One of the things I talk to people, about standards is it's one thing to know what you want, but maturity in life has a way of also teaching you what you don't want. And that sometimes is even more valuable than what you do want. Because it's like a minefield sometimes. And when you see toxic things, you're like, I experienced that. I don't want that again. And I think it's just as valuable. And leading an organization, especially when you have so many different personalities, so many different ambitions, fears and inadequacies, all of that jumbled up together. And then you tie life in, and stresses. And in our industry, the market and all that goes with it. I applaud you, to be a leader and a woman with vision. I think it's incredible. I love what you're doing with AIME. I've read your article that you sent out the other day, about getting back to basics.
Yeah.
And that is so true, and it resonates. And I think that's a big theme for 2024. When I was speaking with Christine earlier today, is just like, a lot of companies have strayed from that, and because we're living big for a while, and now it's like, hey, how are we going to deal with 2024? And it's interesting, and I do feel that the best is yet ahead of us.
I do
I
too.
do believe that there is so much opportunity, and with great leaders like you at the helm, Jamie, it's wonderful. I'm sure that your associates, your friends, your colleagues, the people who work with you and are part of Amerifund are very blessed to have you as a leader. Now, if you can give us our final remarks and what you would give as advice for anybody, but specifically to the topic of women with vision, uh, what what final point would you give as far as how to be successful in 2024 and in their career if they were starting new?
I would say that I've always said that no matter where the market is, you can't stop doing the things that you know are going to continue to cultivate your business. And so, even for those who didn't, I know that you're out there. We've all been guilty of it. It's not too late. Right now, you need to be laying the groundwork because I do believe that 2024 is our comeback year. And I do believe that there's opportunity. It's already here and it's only going to get greater. The activities you do today will allow you to maximize on that potential when the time comes. You don't want to be caught with clunky systems or bad tracking or no database or no communication in a situation where you have an abundance of loans, because what you're going to do is you're going to burn through relationships, and then you're not going to have you're not going to have those people refer you more people. And what you're doing is you're actually maximizing on your production at the same time as you're building a sustainable business, because you're giving people a good experience if you've got your stuff in order and you're prepared. And now you're adding to your referral database. You're adding to the people that are going to send their kids and their grandkids and their friends and their family back to you. Specifically as it relates to being a woman, we're coming out of a very challenging time, and a good friend of mine says that when the pie shrinks, the table manners change. And I think we saw that in 2023, and
Yeah.
we've even seen a little bit of it this year. I would say two things. So number one, don't base your worth on your bank account or your production, because even the most seasoned loan originators didn't do a fraction last year of what they've done in the past. There's room for all of us. And as a woman, sometimes women are our own worst enemies. Sometimes it isn't that we're being repressed by anybody else. Sometimes it's that we walk in fear and insecurity, and we project that onto our colleagues, and we tear other people down. That old saying, you don't have to blow out someone else's candle in order for yours to burn brighter. It rings true today.
Yes.
I think we've come a long way in our industry, but I think we have a long way to go. And I think that it starts with the women in mortgage and how we conduct ourselves among one another, both on social media platforms and in real life. Have an abundance mindset, believe it, and then demonstrate it in your actions.
Thank you. That is wonderful. I'm a big believer in collaborative efforts, and that I'm in competition with no one other than myself. Now, I know a whole lot of colleagues who disagree with that, but you know what? I don't care. I don't live by their standard. I live by mine.
That's right.
And I definitely want people who want to get to you. Tell us how they can reach you, but also there's going to be people right now who say, you know what, I want to work with Jamie. I want to work with her company. I want to be tutored. I want to be mentored by her. Please tell us how, if anyone who wants to either do business or do work with you, how they can reach out to you and get connected with you, Jamie.
Absolutely. Well, I'm all over Facebook and social media, so you can find me on Instagram. I'm the one Jamie C. I am Jamie Cavanaugh on Facebook. My cell phone is everywhere, as any good salesperson's phone number should be.
Yes.
I'm very easy to find, but if you'd like to, we have a Join Amerifund webinar every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, and we go really deeply into who we are, our value proposition, everything. We drill it all the way down. You can go to joinamerifund.com/webinar, and you can choose whatever upcoming webinar works for you. Or if you'd like to book some time with me one-on-one, you can send me a Facebook message. You can text me, you can call me, you can reach me anyway. Go to amerifund.com. You'll find my page there. All my contact information is there. I will be more than happy to take time out of my day to chat with anybody, whether they want to come here or they just want some advice on their own business. I'm happy to help, and I would love the opportunity.
Thank you for being so generous with your time, and consider you more than now a Facebook friend.
Definitely.
I'm always on the lookout for more genuine friendships, and thank you for being one of my new friends and being
Oh, thank
part of this journey of what I'm trying to build. It really is important, and I will never forget this.
I am happy
Very
to
much.
support you, and I love the message, and I love the podcast. The energy's great. It's not just your typical business podcast. It's about what's real, and you got some stuff out of me, Tom. I actually, I didn't talk all business, so thank you for the opportunity. It's been a real pleasure. It's been a lot of fun too.
Wonderful. Stay tuned to our next episode. Thank you, Jamie. That is
You bet.
just incredible.
Oh, you are too. Thank you.
Let's say
Thank
human,
you.
I think, is less than. We're souls. We're meant to experience life.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Well, can you call Daisy over real quick? She just
Hey,
looks
Stacey.
too damn cute. Oh,
She's like, I'm not going to listen. Here, come here. Oh, my goodness. Where are we going? Oh, my big girl.
oh, she's so adorable. Oh, I love that smoky color. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous coat.
She is such a special girl. Like, just a little love.
She's like, okay, mom. I have a husky. She's not in the office right now, but she's my service dog, and I love her. Now I'm in Idaho right now, and so
Oh, cool.
she's loving this damn snow. I'm not. I'm from Arizona. I'm an Arizona native, a desert rat. This is my first year here, and
That's
after
change.
a podcast I was doing earlier today, I'm like, I got to get some lunch because my wife's sick. I got to go get out some, and I didn't know it was snowing, and it went out to 6 inches of snow and snowflakes that are a quarter to $half size. I'm like, what in the hell is this?
It's like my husband grew up, he spent a lot of his time in West Jordan, Utah when he was growing up in
Nice.
his elementary years. And he's like, babe, you don't understand snow. I know you want to move to our property in Canada, but you haven't been through a winter in Canada. Our family are sending us negative 30-degree weather, reports. It's like, it's a different world. I remember going to Mammoth with him when we were newly engaged, and I walked out of the hotel in a pair of jeans, and he's like, you don't understand. It was so bone-chillingly cold that I realized why people wear long johns and layers, and it was like, this is not even funny. So we've established I'm probably not a person that will live in the snow, at least not full-time.
That's so funny because I'm actually planning on moving to Logan, Utah in about 6 months or so,
Oh, fun.
and as I was walking, I was just going outside, and I open up the door and I see all the snow coming down. I'm like, nope, just shut the door and walk back into my basement because where my office is in the basement. And I'm like piling all these clothes, these gigantic, thick, wool lined gloves and stuff. And I'm like, all right, honey, I gotta go back out, but I'm not gonna freeze my butt off. And
So we're in California, right?
yeah.
So my daughter's school for 3 days has texted us, due to the cold weather, we will be dropping the children off in the classrooms. It's like 43. My friends in Delaware and Mississippi, and my buddy Mike Cox in Wisconsin, his furnace went out last night and it's negative 20.
Oh
And he's
God.
looking at me like, what is wrong with people in California? You guys don't even know what weather is. I'd be in flip
Yeah.
flops and a tank top in 40-degree weather. It's
Yes.
crazy.
Yes. It's interesting as I'm driving on 6 inches worth of snow. Idaho, I don't know. Again, I'm new here. I've only been here for like 6 months, but they're like, no way in hell you're getting a snow day. Yeah, get your ass out to
Idaho
work,
does
get to
not cancel
school.
stuff. No, Idaho. My two good friends of mine, he's a retired police detective and she's a retired nurse. They retired to I believe it's Priest River in Idaho. Not far. It's in Idaho. They love it there, but it's no joke. And they lived in California. So nobody cancels anything.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in some of the other states my other broker friends live in, it gets a tiny bit of snow and everything's closed. And so you just don't know how it's going to be depending on where you are, right?
Yeah.
And how the community is.
Yes. Hey, you're wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed this. Tom Mancuso warned me. He's like, he's not going to ask you business. He's gonna get stuff out of you. All right.
You know what? That's a badge of honor because I believe we're souls meant to have a human experience.
Absolutely. It's what matters.
Yeah. All right. Well, God bless you, Jamie.
Yes,
Thank you so
you
very
too.
much. I'm trying to have this drop Friday. And so I want to try to have 3 drop at the same time. So it's going to be Tom, Christine, and you.